Absolutely. Here's your chapter, The End of the Hallway, read back in full. No edits, just the raw text as you wrote it. The End of the Hallway. Cuthbert didn't know the guy's name. Didn't care to. Names were just handles on luggage you had to carry. And Cuthbert traveled light. The contract was simple. A quiet exit. A tidy sum transferred through Dee Dee Moncler's encrypted channels. The target was just another sad sack in a cheap suit, walking home under the piss-yellow glow of the city's streetlights, probably thinking about mortgages or a wife who didn't love him anymore. Cuthbert was a shadow in a back alley. The suppressor on his pistol made a sound like a cough, a soft foot that was swallowed by the city's endless hum. The guy in the suit crumpled, a marionette with its strings cut, his cheap briefcase skittering across the wet pavement. Job done. Cuthbert turned to leave, but paused. The body twitched, just once, a full 10 seconds after the soul should have clocked out. A strange, spidery little tremor. Cuthbert shrugged. Some bodies just had bad wiring. He melted back into the night. He woke up coughing seawater, his lungs on fire. The first thing he saw was sand, pale as bone under a sky with no sun, only a flat, eternal twilight. He was on a beach, a perfect crescent moon bay cradled by cliffs of black rock that rose on either side, their edges honed to an impossible sharpness. Behind him, the ocean was calm and gray. In front of him, blocking any path inland, was a wall. A prison of bamboo stalks, each one thicker than a man's waist, shooting straight up into the blank sky, so high their tips dissolved into nothingness. Panic, cold and electric, seized him. The last thing he remembered was the sweet chemical taste of a bottle of pills and the dull fade to black. This wasn't the plan. He tried the rocks first. He scrambled toward the southern edge of the bay, but the moment his hand touched the stone, it sliced him to the bone. He tried to climb, and the rocks peeled his skin away like fruit. He recoiled, bleeding, and stared at the water. Maybe he could swim around them. The water was cold, but not unbearable. He swam, his strokes strong, feeling a surge of hope as he passed the line of the cliffs. Then the submerged rocks found him. They tore through his flesh like obsidian razors, gutting him in a silent, crimson explosion. He died screaming into the water, and woke up coughing seawater, his lungs on fire on the same pale sand. No wounds, no blood, just the same dreadful, perfect bay. A loop, a cosmic joke with no punchline. After the third death by rocks, he gave up on the sea. He turned to the bamboo. For days or weeks, time was a joke here. He walked the length of the green wall, touching the smooth, cold stalks. They hummed with a low vibrational energy, like a machine left on in another room. Finally, he found it, a tiny rift, a gap no wider than his shoulders where two of the colossal stalks had grown slightly apart. It was his only chance. He squeezed through, the bamboo scraping his sides, the pressure immense. It was a claustrophobic sideways crawl through an endless green canyon. For what felt like miles, he shimmied, scraped, and bled, lost in a sea of vertical lines. The silence was absolute, broken only by his own ragged breathing. He was a rat in a maze designed by a god with a penchant for geometry and despair. Then, just as his mind was about to snap, he was spat out the other side. He fell onto grass, an endless undulating landscape of perfectly mown green hills rolling on forever under the same sunless ambient light. Valley after valley, mound after mound, like a golf course designed by a machine that had forgotten how to stop. There was no wind, no birds, no life. He walked and walked and walked. The temperature was a constant, vaguely pleasant 16 degrees. He never got hungry. He never got thirsty. This, he realized with a cold certainty that settled deep in his gut, was definitely the afterlife. An afterlife of crushing, sterile mediocrity. His mind, starved of stimulus and drowning in monotony, began to turn on itself. It started with a flicker in the sky, like a VHS tape losing its tracking. Then, the entire dome of the heavens became a screen. A children's show started playing, hosted by grotesque, smirking weavers with stitched-on smiles, using hand puppets to reenact his most embarrassing childhood memories. A laugh track roared when the puppet him pissed his pants in second grade. It cut to a commercial, an infomercial selling different suicide methods. Tired of the eternal return? Try our new Razor's Kiss. Guaranteed oblivion or your misery back. He screamed at the sky, and the sky just showed a game show where the grand prize was a moment of genuine human connection. He saw his own face on a contestant podium, failing to answer the simplest questions about the people he'd claimed to love. He collapsed, sobbing, and the sky played a sitcom laugh track. He started to look forward to it. The broadcasts were the only thing that broke the soul-crushing sameness. He was watching himself be watched, his own psyche gaslighting him into a state of entertained insanity. He was being broken down completely, and he knew it. The final broadcast was just his own face, staring back at him from the sky, weeping silently. Then the sky went blank, and the ground began to change. The mown grass withered, turning to dust, then to sand. The sand hardened under his feet, cracked and baked, solidifying into flat plates of sandstone. The plates rose, becoming walls, facades, buildings. He was walking through a city that was being excavated from the earth around him, a city built from the fossilized sediment of his own memory. His childhood home stretched vertically into the sky, its rooms stacked impossibly. His high school corridor ran sideways, lockers opening into empty voids. It was a sprawling M.C. Escher metropolis of regret, every street a wrong turn, every building a monument to a past he couldn't escape. He wandered for an age through this stone library of his failures, each door opening into another dead-end memory, until he found it. In the center of a plaza that hung upside down, there was a single wooden door. It was out of place, warm and real in this cold stone world. In front of it stood a figure shrouded in liquid static, its form constantly pixelating and reforming. Its face was a swirling vortex, an optical illusion that hurt to look at. The figure held a torch, its flame burning without consuming fuel, and in its other hand it held out a circular sandstone ring. Hanging from the ring were two keys, one of sandstone, the other of cold, hard steel. He took them. The shroud didn't resist. It simply tilted its head, as if asking a question he didn't know how to answer. The wooden door had no lock. He pushed it open and stepped through. He was in an endless black hallway. It was absolute darkness, but he could feel, with a sense he didn't know he possessed, thousands of doors lining the walls, left and right, flush against each other. Each door had a single, heavy padlock on it. And far, far at the end of the hallway, he could sense a final door, a wall of a door, buried under a grotesque mountain of chains and padlocks. He took the torch from the shroud, who had appeared silently beside him. In its light, the hallway seemed to stretch into infinity. He walked to the final door, the one buried in chains. He tried the steel key. It slid into one of the countless padlocks, and with a heavy clunk, the lock sprang open. The key, however, was now stuck fast. One down, 1,000,000 to go. He turned to the side doors. He tried the sandstone key on several, but it wouldn't fit. Frustrated, he walked back to the very beginning of the hallway and tried the first door on his right. The sandstone key slid in. Click. The door opened, and he was pulled inside. He was back in his old apartment, the night of his first major breakup. He lived through it again. Every painful word, every tear. But this time, he said the things he should have said. He was kinder. He was honest. When it was over, he was spat back out into the black hallway. The sandstone key had disintegrated into dust in his hand. He walked back to the entrance. The shroud was there, holding a new sandstone ring with a new sandstone key and a new steel key. The ritual was set. He would take the keys. He would walk to a side door, live through a regret, and watch the sandstone key turn to dust. Then he would walk all the way to the end of the hall and use the steel key to undo one more lock on the final door. Then he would walk all the way back to the shroud at the entrance. Over and over. Door by door. Regret by regret. The walk grew longer each time. The journey from the entrance to his current door and then to the final chained door began to take hours, then days. It was a pilgrimage of exhaustion, a slow burn apocalypse of the self. And as he walked, he noticed something. The shroud's face was changing. The swirling void was slowly resolving. After decades or centuries of walking the hall, he could see a face in the static, a tired, familiar, all-seeing face. It was Lumiere. Finally, the day came. He unlocked the last side door. He faced the last regret. He used the last steel key on the last padlock of the final door. The mountain of chains clattered to the floor, dissolving into smoke. He stood before the plain, unadorned door at the end of everything. He pushed it open. He stepped into a garden. It was small, not a grand paradise, but a perfect, intimate space. The air smelled of rain and honeysuckle. The grass was cool and real beneath his feet. It was the first honest place he had been in since he died. He walked through it, a quiet peace settling over him. At the far end of the garden was a cliff, overlooking a beautiful bottomless abyss of soft, churning blackness. He could stay. He could rest. He had earned it. He stood on the edge for a long time. He looked back at the garden, then he looked down into the void, and he jumped. As he fell, he felt himself gently disintegrating, molecule by molecule. It wasn't painful. It was release. He looked up one last time and saw the garden as it truly was, a tiny glowing island of life in an infinite empty plain,